Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mortuary. I am the Mortician, and today I have for you a comic book review. Yes, a comic book review. This one might be a little bit harder to do because of its nature, but I figured I'll give a whack at it. This is Clive Barker's Hellraiser, Masterpieces Volume 2. You might be asking, Cameron, why'd you start with Volume 2? It's because this was just on clearance. I picked it up on a whim. And yeah, if none of you guys are familiar, if any of you guys are unfamiliar, I should say, with the Hellraiser series, they basically started off as a novel called The Hellbound Heart. That was the novel that kickstarted everything. From that novel, the Hellraiser films were born, which are immensely popular. There are fucking tons of them. It's like the Friday the 13th, the English Friday the 13th. There's like so many fucking movies. And it blew up, and they made action figures of the individual Cenobites, which are the monsters of these movies, of this particular graphic novel. Like I said, action figures of them made. They made the puzzle box. You can buy the puzzle box. So this thing got pretty big really fast. It's amazing pieces of work, in my opinion. The first two are some of the best horror movies I have watched. They're some of my favorites. And this, I really like how they did this. If you guys have ever read something like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, that I almost called it a movie. That book there, you know how every story was kind of disconnected? There weren't really chapters. They were just individual short stories, more of a compilation of scary stories than it was one whole scary story. Well, that's exactly how this is. Instead of this trying to just scare your pants off, they tried to put as much gore and fucked upitude as they could in this. Fucked upitude. It's going to be a word. I'm going to contact Merriam-Webster. And we'll start by showing the illustration. Yes, this pops right out. I got it on clearance. So there was obviously going to be a defect. But this will help me actually pick something out here. Here. The illustration on this is absolutely phenomenal. It is really, really awesome. And just like how no two stories are alike, no two stories have the same art style. Here we got, this is called, whoops, trying to open the page. These are like, even though that page rips out, it feels like it's brand new and never been opened. So the pages stick together a little bit. The Tontine, we'll go here. The Tontine, a black and white. Here, let's do this. Compared to that, it's a black and white, almost watercolor black and white story. It's actually really, really cool looking. It's basically about a bunch of guys who were, they were in the war together. I believe it was World War II, and basically they had this guy who would like basically play Russian roulette by himself. And the whole story is in honor of him. It's Tontine, or however you say it, I don't know. Basically is like some fucked up game where like at the end, I don't know what exactly happens when the last person wins. I guess they inherit his luck or something. And it's actually a very interesting story. I'm trying not to spoil too much, because that's honestly my favorite one out of all of these. That's my favorite story. But it's just so fucking good. There's once again a lot of good art here. A lot of fucked up art too. This one looks very similar to the first one. I would say less like, this reminds me of something like maybe the 60s, this one over here. But this is like a little bit more modernized take on that. Like a fucked up Cenobite baby and stuff. It has some of the greatest things like art I've seen in a comic book in a long time. And obviously you're probably looking at this and you're saying it's probably hard to sum up stories that are so disconnected, and you're absolutely right. The only negative stories I can see are the first one. I didn't get the first one, which is the one I showed you. The art's really nice in that one. But in all honesty, it doesn't make sense to me. It's about this guy who's basically got some land that's worth a lot of money, and this woman goes over there and she basically tries to fuck him to get deed to the house and the land and whatnot. It's just a really weird story that really has no meaning and like no path, I guess you can say. It just doesn't make any sense. That's the only real negative side. The rest of the stories are actually pretty unique. There's one about a boxer who just has never lost a fight. Never, ever lost a fight. And basically, as you can see, as you can probably tell if you know what the Cenobites are, he gets in contact with them. And some of the Cenobites, too. I should probably show you those. Here. Oh, perfect. Are very unique. Like, when you see the movie, no, a lot of these Cenobites don't look exactly like that, which I like. They were a lot more creative than just keeping on slapping the S&M stuff. Like, for instance, this one looks a little bit like the Fawns or something. The devil-fied Fawns. And I have to give them credit for that, because if you've ever watched the Hellraiser movie and you look at one of these novels, you might suspect that they would keep with the theme of the S&M, the black leather and the spandex and like the cuts and whatnot. But no, they actually have some really good looking Cenobites that don't incorporate that stuff, and it's really cool to see them go outside that box and really try for something new. Like I said, it's a beautiful thing. I would definitely recommend. I picked this up for $15. This is one of my favorite compilations, like, ever. Like, I don't typically like buying things like this where they just all compile together, but I probably would have bought one or two of these and then been like, oh, fuck, now I gotta go buy more. Definitely recommend for the $15. The most I would pay for this is probably like $20 or $25. Like, it would still be worth it. The stories are awesome. They're actually really unique. Like, in the sense that, yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't take the same turns you think it would, and I really enjoy that, because it seems like something like just demons would just get really boring after a while and just be repetitious, but it really doesn't get that way. I never felt bored. I never felt like I was hanging on and just felt like I had to finish the book. The entire thing had me on its hook, and every time one of the smaller all these stories ended, I was like, ah, fuck. I didn't want it to end. And that's something really unique, to have so many individual comics and stories to not really have any shorter points. The only real one, like I said, is that first one, just because it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So what do I have to rate this? I have to give this like an 8. Like, this is so worth the money I paid. Possibly even a 9. Once again, the only thing I can say is that, and possibly if I were to say, just be a little bit more critical, just for critical sake, this, I mean, I can't even say this art style is bad, but it's a little meh to me. This is the second story. I mean, once again, it's unique, but it's just not what I expect for this kind of thing. But I can't really fault it too much, because it's at least trying to do something different with each of these stories. Like, I would say halfway point, 8.5 out of 10. Highly recommended. Definitely should be on your to-read list if you are a Hellraiser fan and a horror fan and love comic books. This hits the trifecta perfectly. You need this in your collection. You need this in your collection, in my opinion. So thank you guys for watching. I really, really hope to hear what you guys are reading about. Reading in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Mortician, peace out.